All right, mates, one of the things we're seeing right now happening in our river systems is the introduction of our Craw forage, okay? The rivers are pretty much way, way down. We're talking about a lot of places less than 2 feet, okay? So the sun has been beating down on that river composition and that bottom area and that shell bed and that rockiness, right, and sand on your bottom of your river system. And the craw are now starting to come out of their winter spring haunts, okay, and they are scattered about in different sections of your river system, depending upon, I think, your depth of water, okay, because that water is warming up because the sun's beating down on it so much. It's kind of tricking a lot of the cycle right now with what's been happening from the post-spawn and temperatures and all of that. And I just want to point out, while we know and we hear all about red being like the coloration, right? Like in spring, throw the red lipless crankbait or the red bait, square bills and all that because red are supposed to look like craw. Well, our craw don't look red, okay? They don't look like that, okay? In our river systems in the mid-Atlantic and in the lower Northeast. They just don't. Not in June, okay? They can get there, but you have to be able to identify your actual craw species. We have about 100 different craw species within 3 to 4 states, okay, area in the region here, okay? Some states have more, okay? Pennsylvania's got a heavy rusty craw population in the Susquehanna, right? The Allegheny has some its own species. The Upper Potomac has its species, plus the introduction of some invasive species, right? So all this stuff comes around to play, and one of the greatest aspects of this is the differentiation of all these different river systems. But for me, I want to right now, since these craws coming up, a lot of times are smaller. You can hold them right in your hand as opposed to the 3-4 inch crawler that you're normally going to see. I really prefer to downsize to a smaller size crankbait, okay, that is going to just get beat up on the rock. You want to bounce these off the rock. It doesn't matter, I have found, whether or not you use a typical square bill, okay, in these conditions, or you're using more of a longer, wider bill, okay, for that's supposed to be for a little deeper water. It ultimately won't matter as much depending on how you work your rod, okay? And you really want to just bang it on the rocks, okay? And this is going to have a tidal wobble like this. This is going to be a little bit different. But these are the coloration patterns that I like, okay? Because they actually mirror what our craw actually... Here's another one with a little darker tone. You can kind of see the difference here. A little darker top, a little brown, a little bit more orange. Little bottom coloration's a little different, but very similar to mimic our actual crawfish as opposed to something like this, okay? This has nothing to do with crawfish, okay? It has to do with sight. We know that bass, especially largemouth bass, key on red and green. That's it, okay? In their eyes. You can look it up. It's science, okay? Now that everything else is just shades, okay? Okay? But predominantly they see in colors of red and green. Unlike us, we see things in primary or tri, okay? We see things in 3 color variations, right? Fish see stuff in dye, 2 color, okay? Red and green being the 2, okay? So just match that hatch, okay? A lot more specific to what you're seeing in your river systems. And right now, mates, with the river, my river at 1.6 feet, okay, I can see these things now, okay? You can see them. Did a couple videos. You can find them on TikTok and YouTube Shorts of the forage, then the creeks that are flowing into the river that are pushing these forage species into the river now. And you can actually see them, what they look like, what their colors are, what their characteristics are. And you want to use that to mimic that into your bait presentation. Don't just go on popular bait searches, okay, where you start spending your money on baits that just are not going to be as productive for you because they're meant for Texas, Louisiana, or California, or Florida, You know, like the blue crawish color, right? The Okeechobee craw color and all that. That just aren't nearly as effective in our river systems because those aren't what the bass are actually seeing. Doesn't mean you can't catch fish on them, but you're going to catch a lot more fish on natural crawl patterns, okay, to your region. And you can get that information by simply searching your DNR, DWR. Craw is an invasive. We're having an invasive species problem with craw. So there's a lot of studies being done, a lot of that kind of stuff being done. You get all kinds of information with all kinds of pictures of all the different craw, match it up with your river, and then go and look for those colors that you want to see. Like an early spring craw, okay, tends to be green, not red. Then it turns to a brown, okay? Then it turns to more of a brown color, okay? And so follow all that stuff. For me, these square bills, okay, are a little bit too big because I'm in 2 feet of water or less predominantly in these section stretches. That's why I downsize to a little smaller bait, okay, for the smallmouth, all right? Now, largemouth, you could probably go with that crankbait down in the tidal fisheries, okay, that also have craw, or in the upper bay. Here's a unique one I like to use in the upper bay is a blue, okay, with a chartreuse bottom, okay, because of our blue crab population in the upper bay. Bass are used to seeing that in their river systems. All right, mates, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you out on the water.